Welcome to Mom Breaks. In this episode, we hear Julia's story of navigating postpartum psychosis after the birth of her son while living in the Netherlands. Julia has a background in neuroscience and is currently completing her PhD in neuroimaging. Today, she lives in Dubai, where she serves as an international coordinator for PSI and is a member of the PSI Postpartum Psychosis Task Force. Last year, early in the stages of this podcast, Julia reached out and generously offered to help organize, review, and read the growing body of literature I'd been flagging and citing for future episodes. So that was incredibly appreciated, something I've been really grateful for. This conversation focuses on her personal experience, but we're thinking through a literature review we're collaborating on and how we might share that in a future episode. Julia shares the unique path her care took from efforts to support her at home before or avoiding hospitalization, then time in a general psychiatric unit, followed by some time in a mother-baby unit. We talk about recovery, how different healthcare systems approach psychosis, and some of the research questions we'd like to see explored in the years ahead. So let's jump into Julia introducing herself.
Well, I'm originally from South Africa. That's where I grew up. And now I live in Dubai with my husband and my son. So he's 5 years old. Yeah, I had postpartum psychosis back in 2021. And at the time, we were living in the Netherlands. So we've lived quite a few places already. And yeah, at the moment, I'm a stay-at-home mom. I'm working towards finishing my PhD research. So that is in the field of neuroscience and medical imaging. Alongside that, I am a volunteer at Postpartum Support International. My function there is as an international coordinator, so someone can reach out here in Dubai if they need help, and also on the Postpartum Psychosis Task Force.
That's amazing. The international coordinator, is that facilitating just getting resources to someone?
Yes, exactly. So I would basically help someone find the right contacts, or if they need help finding an expert in postpartum mental health, and also just to listen and provide some information on postpartum mental health.
I'm so glad that is there. I forgot that we had psychosis the same year. Like our kids are the same age, and I was also 2021. So we're like
Yeah,
similar timeline.
yeah.
That sounds like a beautiful life, juggling stay at home living as well as a PhD, like finishing your PhD. That is amazing. Can you talk about what drew you to do your PhD?
I've always been curious about the inner workings of the human body and the brain. And while I was living in South Africa, I studied human anatomy, or comparative anatomy, actually, also anatomy of animals. Along that trajectory, I met a professor that was doing neuroscience research. I thought, hey, this is interesting. I would like to know more, even better if I could study it abroad. So I went to Belgium, started a master's in neuroscience, and from there things developed. I did an internship during my master's studies, and that involved using transcranial magnetic stimulation to potentially treat depression or anxiety,
Oh.
addiction. So we were looking into those mechanisms. Eventually, for my PhD thesis, I used the same stimulation technique where we looked into whether this could also be used as a treatment tool for people who have had a stroke.
Wow. So the lab you were working for was looking at transcranial magnetic stimulation as treatment
Yes.
for like psychiatric stuff.
Yes, particularly for people who did not respond so well to pharmaceutical treatments, so kind of treatment resistant patients. We were looking into pathways that could potentially be stimulated non-invasively as an alternative treatment option.
How does that approach compare to ECT?
ECT, good question. So, electroconvulsive therapy, I think it's a bit more aggressive. Transcranial magnetic stimulation is very low threshold. So the patient sits in the chair, you rarely feel anything. So you don't need any anesthesia or medication. Whereas, yeah, the ECT will aim to reset your brain to get you out of the psychosis or the severe depression. Whereas the transcranial magnetic stimulation would focus on stimulating certain parts of the brain that's interconnected, sort of an indirect kind of way to enhance the neuronal connections between brain regions.
Yeah, I think ECT in my head, I realize as you're talking, like, I really don't have a image for what these things look like. But have you seen, what is it called? One Bird Over the Cuckoo's Nest, or what is it? With,
No.
okay, it has Jack Nicholman, I think. The movie I was talking about is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and it is Jack Nicholson that I was trying to say. I did really enjoy this movie. It could be triggering for, I watched it after being in a psych ward, but I thought it was a beautiful story. I now can see how it really depicts, it is ECT, very inhumane and pretty brutal. It's a good reminder that Hollywood depictions are not always accurate, most often not. So, some media literacy reminders here. I will include a link to a meta analysis and review of the effectiveness of ECT, particularly for treatment resistant depression, also bipolar depression. Through this more intensive treatment that does, the mechanism isn't fully understood, but it is almost like a reset, bringing you out of a psychosis or severe depression. Let's get back to Julia reflecting on life leading up to her psychosis.
So I spent 4 years at the university working on my PhD research, but during that time I didn't finish my thesis. So after 4 years, your employment ends with the university, and then
Oh,
it was time for me to move on to next things. So I've started working as a medical writer. I did that part-time, like 4 days a week, and I had 1 day a week, which I wanted to still spend on my PhD research. But
nice.
yeah, that proved to be more difficult than originally planned.
Yeah, to get really into it in a day per
Yes,
week.
exactly. Yeah, I really enjoyed my job as a medical writer. It's quite innovative, combining the best parts of research and new technology. So I really enjoyed that, and I think I could really live into it. And then at the end of the week, I was like, oh, okay, now
Tired.
it's very difficult to make this switch to my
Yeah.
research. Yeah.
So medical writing is not patient facing, is it?
No, it's not patient facing. You get different kinds, but mine was more focused on regulatory medical writing. We prepared documentation for medical devices to get ethical approval for our clients to bring a new product to the market or to keep it there. It has to get CE validation or marking before they can sell a new device. Other forms of medical writing prepare presentations for medical professionals, for conferences, or promotional materials.
Around the medical instruments that are used
Yes.
in, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so you had mentioned that the lab you're working with was looking at this transcranial magnetic stimulation around anxiety, depression. What was your personal experience with mental health to this point in your life?
Um, I must say that I have not really, up until that point, I did not really experience any mental health interactions. I also didn't really have a lot of people in my environment that was struggling with mental health. Occasionally, you would hear someone who has depression, but yeah, not really sure what it meant until I studied a little bit about it during my master's. Other than that, really no family history. I think I come more from a background where everything is either going well or If it's not, you're probably not working hard enough. So if you have time to reminisce about things, then yeah, you start to
You're
get
not
depressive
working.
thoughts.
Yeah, I can see that in in like my own culture. Like, oh, something bad's happening, like you just need to work it through. Or like for
Yeah.
me, like pray through, like a religion was part of my
Yes.
experience. So had you ever heard of postpartum psychosis before you experienced it?
No. I've heard about the baby blues. I've heard about postpartum depression, but postpartum psychosis, yeah, I completely missed it. Even though I thought that I was sort of prepared. I've read everything that the midwives gave me to read. I had time to look at things online while I was pregnant or before I gave birth. So it was absolutely not something that came up.
Yeah, same. How was pregnancy for you?
I think I had a really good pregnancy. I must say that I also enjoyed it a lot.
That's
Um,
great.
I did not have morning sickness, had some tiredness in the first trimester, but other than that, I was completely healthy and doing well. I was happy that I could continue exercising. I joined a mom's group during my pregnancy, and I kept on doing that right up until before I gave birth. At the time living in the Netherlands, you continue to be active, you cycle everywhere. So I thought that was really good, and I felt strong and healthy. So baby was doing well.
That's great. And awesome that you
Yeah.
already had a mom group going before you had the baby.
Yeah, so it was nice. I don't know why, even how I met them or how I came across them, but it was like a fitness group specifically focused around pregnancy and postpartum period, which I thought was quite a nice group to join at the time.
Yeah. So you were working out together or like jogging
Yes.
or
Yeah. Not jogging really at that point anymore, but we were doing modified strength exercises for pregnancy. And then after you gave birth, you come back after 6 weeks if you had no complications. And then they sort of help you to reestablish a regular exercise program
cool.
as well. Yeah.
That's great. So then you were working as a medical writer and juggling your research through your pregnancy, is that right?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
How was your birth experience?
I think it was also good. It was a long labor. I want to say it was almost 24 hours. Things started on really slowly. The day before I gave birth, I already had a bad night's sleep because of
Mm,
contractions that would
long.
come and go. Eventually, the midwife induced labor by breaking my water. And then from there on, things went really quickly. She did not expect it though, because she broke my water and then she went home to have her
Oh no.
dinner first.
Ah,
And came back 2 hours later. And I think at that point I was already 9 centimeters dilated. The initial plan was still to have a hospital birth, but at that point, I did not see myself getting into a car and driving to
yeah.
hospital anymore. Like everything was ready. My husband helped me to put on my shoes. Our bags were packed for the hospital. And then I was just like, no, I cannot go. I cannot go
Yeah.
anymore.
At that
Um,
stage of labor, like, no.
So, but luckily in the Netherlands, it's not uncommon to have home births. And I think the midwives also prepare you for a case like that, where you already have a lot of the things in house that you would technically need, and she has it as well. So it was a home birth in the end. That was the only thing that was unplanned and unexpected. Other than that, I had a good birthing experience. I think my husband was a little bit traumatized after that, though.
He wasn't ready for the home birth.
No, he was not ready for the home birth. He was pretty set on going to the hospital. I think looking back, it might have helped, or it might have given us a bit more rest, because then yeah, there are professionals at hospital to help you,
Yeah.
and yeah, just check out if there are any signs to look for, or just to give you both some rest. I gave birth around, I think, 8 o'clock in the evening. The midwife was there. In the Netherlands, you also have, it's not really a nurse, but someone who can come and support you the first couple of days after you've given birth, which is a really nice support to
That's great.
have. Um, so she was also there. And then I think around 11 at night, 11, 12, they left. Here you are, first time parents in your home with a baby.
Wow.
Okay, what do we do now? You try to sleep. But yeah, I think the baby got some sleep, but both of us had very poor sleep from the start.
So you were just you three at home, like
Yes,
hours after giving birth.
yes, yes.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow. I mean, it's
yeah.
amazing that birth isn't like an illness, like giving birth.
No,
It's not like
no.
you need medical intervention. But
Yeah,
wow, I didn't think about the aftermath. Like,
yeah. So I can imagine that that is something that you would choose if it's maybe your second or third child. But for your first, I think it's a bit, you have, well, living in the Netherlands, also no family around, so no one to come and check in on you.
mm,
Yeah, it's just, it adds extra layer of stress, I think, that's not necessarily needed.
yeah. Are you both from South Africa? You and your spouse?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so quite far from family.
Yes. Yeah. And it was also during the COVID pandemic.
Mm,
So there were also travel restrictions and, well, a lot of other limitations. So I think that also added to a complicated scenario.
yes. Yes, that is certainly a major context going on in the background
Yes.
of
Yeah.
COVID. The home birth dynamic makes sense as far as like a unplanned, didn't totally match expectations. What
Yeah.
other expectations would you say you had for the postpartum period?
I don't believe that I really had a lot of expectations for it. I feel like I was quite unprepared for it. I remember focusing a lot on the pregnancy and then eventually giving birth. Also, in the Netherlands, there's a lot of emphasis of giving natural birth,
Hmm.
and you write up your birth plan. You can decide whether you want pain medication. So a lot of thought and a lot of focus for me went into that. As for the postpartum period, I yeah, I remember my mom asking me if I wanted her to be there. And I said, well, we have this birth support that would come to us. She would visit us daily for the first week. So I think that should be fine. We want to try and figure out things a little bit on our own first. In hindsight, maybe that was the wrong decision. If she was there, maybe things would have been easier. But yeah, it's difficult to say. It's a lot of change around a birth, your sleep, your identity, figuring out who this little person is, what
Yeah.
it needs. So I think it caught me by surprise.
Yes, same. No one plans to lose their minds.
No.
Okay, so one thing that we flagged in our literature review is how there is a sort of clustering of cases in the first week or two postpartum. Though I was a month postpartum, and we've heard of people being many months postpartum. Where do you fit in the timeline?
I think mine is pretty textbook. I think we got the crisis team in already at 10 days postpartum. We definitely noticed already before that that something was not right. I don't know if my husband already started advocating for more help earlier than the 10-day mark, but 10 days after the crisis team came, and I think there was a psychiatrist, maybe even the midwife and the GP. They did a lot of assessments, and there was a couple of visits over a few days. But it took a while for them to admit me to hospital. So they tried to first treat me at home. It was quite strange because I could agree with them that something was not quite well and that I was ill, but somehow I didn't want to accept it. I would agree with you and I would tell you that, yes, I recognize that I have the symptoms of postpartum psychosis, but I'm not ill. I feel fine. I don't
Oh,
want to take the medication.
right.
um, so, yeah, to come back to your question, it was around 10 days after postpartum that they started doing assessments, but I think probably right off the bat, I started struggling with my sleep. Initially, I thought that I was just more alert because there is a baby and it needs to be fed and you need to pay attention. So I thought it was sort of an increased alertness. Strangely enough, it was not, I don't want to say a power, but yeah, it felt like I had a lot more energy. So I could stay awake. At some points during the day, I would feel tired, but then I would get an energy surge and did not feel like I needed the sleep. So
Mm,
in my mind, I was doing fine. I could continue doing things. But yeah, things quickly escalated from there.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's really sad and interesting how new parents, particularly new moms, it's kind of like, okay, you're supposed to be sleepless. And so there's part of it is like, okay, this is the norm, I guess.
Yes.
Tired,
Yeah.
but knowing like where the balance is. And also, you can give the baby to someone else and go sleep at a hotel or
Yes.
something. Like you are
Yeah.
allowed to get a full night's rest.
Yeah.
I think for me in retrospect, it's like, but I didn't know that it was dangerous to not be.
Yes.
I didn't know that being like, I'm fine, I can go without sleep was such a risk factor for what was to come.
I agree. I felt tired at times, but at a given moment, I got another energy surge and I could continue. And I thought, well, that is fine because this is now how it's going to be because I have this baby and I need to take care of it. And it must be a physiological or biological response that's enabling me to stay awake and take care of my baby because this is now new. I did not flag it at first as a risk factor or as something that could allow me to spiral so much.
Uh-huh. So the sleep sounds like was the first symptom
Yes.
slash both.
Yes. Rest.
Yeah. What other symptoms showed up in those early stages?
I think the other thing for me was I started to speak a lot. I'm not
Okay.
normally someone who would voice my opinion. I'm more of a listener. If I would speak, it would be after a lot of thought, but I would babble on and have conversations with family members up until the point where I'm completely out of breath because I am talking so much and so fast. And at the time, also when we had this birth support at home, she obviously had this list of things that she takes you through on how to bathe the baby and how to take its temperature, really practical things. She was speaking to us in Dutch, and we can speak Dutch as well, but I don't feel like my Dutch was at such a level that I would be having super full and long conversations with someone. But for some reason, I was also speaking her ear off in Dutch.
Wow.
So it's also like some sort of filter or a barrier was lifted, and the thoughts just went, and everything that came into my mind also had to be spoken out aloud.
Wow. Yeah. I love that. That it was in many languages though.
Yeah,
Like that's impressive. I also talked a lot. So that tracks for me too.
yeah.
Did anyone notice that things were off?
Yes, I think. The first was probably my husband to notice that things were not going well. He was concerned that I was not sleeping enough because every time he would see me, day or night, I would be awake and not sleeping. Because of the COVID situation, I think I also really missed having family around. So I would call people a lot. I messaged a lot of people, even friends that I did not really have contact on a regular basis anymore. And one of our friends actually flagged this to my husband as well, because
Oh,
the things that I was messaging did not make sense to them. So my reality was just completely distorted at that time as well. And this friend's sister actually had postpartum psychosis as well. And he said, hey,
oh.
maybe this is happening to Julia as well. And
What? Wow.
yes.
Whoa.
Yeah, so I think that was actually wild and also a blessing in disguise, because I don't know if he did not say anything or if he just dismissed it, how long it would have been take to be diagnosed actually.
Yeah. So this friend, you texted something that hinted at not being totally grounded.
Yes, yes, yeah,
Okay. And that is so great that they had your husband's contact info to
yes,
pass along, like, hey, this is off.
yeah, exactly.
Wow. That's awesome that
Yeah,
they had the words too.
yeah.
So do you feel that helped your spouse get help?
I think it did. I think he was frustrated with the whole process of getting diagnosed and getting help. Yeah, I think at the beginning, maybe they were thinking it was only the baby blues or postpartum depression. I feel like he had to advocate a lot and he had to repeat it a lot to people that it is postpartum psychosis and not depression, not the baby
Oh,
blues. Because I remember early on, a couple of days after birth, breastfeeding was quite difficult. I was emotional, but not sad. It was more happy tears, I would say. And my husband was concerned that the baby was not getting enough breast milk. Even though the midwife did acknowledge his concerns, she was just like, it's going to take a bit of time. Don't have to be concerned. It's going to be all right. I had the sense that he was quite frustrated with the health professionals in the sense that they did not listen to him as much as he wanted to, and that
mm.
action took quite some time. It took quite some time for them to undertake action.
What does help seeking look like? Is he talking to the midwife? Like, can you share more about what the
Yes.
system was in the Netherlands?
So typically in the Netherlands, your pregnancy is managed by a midwife practice. You don't typically see a gynecologist unless you have a high risk pregnancy or if there is some sort of complication. So they see you for all your checkups. They can assist you with the birth. And if you go to hospital, they will also come to the hospital to help with the birthing process. So during that first period where you also have the birth or the postpartum support, I would say, they come every day for 3 to 6 hours a day to help you with the baby, with minor household chores, and for yourself, for the mom, to show you how to basically take care of yourself and how to maintain any issues that you might have had after birth, like how to take care of a wound or what is to be expected after you've given birth in terms of blood loss, those kind of things. They keep tabs on that. And they also have then regular contact with a midwife. So at the point where breastfeeding was really difficult, we had contact with the midwife and the birth support or postpartum support. And eventually, when my mental state deteriorated further, we contacted the GP. And I think he is then the one, or maybe the midwife, they can contact the crisis team. You then have a crisis
Oh,
team that come in.
so you can't activate the crisis team.
No, not directly. It needs to go through
Interesting.
a referral. Once you've had contact with a crisis team, I think it's easier to contact them directly, but not beforehand. You first need to be assessed by the GP and the midwife.
Julia shared additional information on Netherlands specific process and resources. So, yes, it sounds like reaching out to your GP is the primary step one. And then they would assess the situation and escalate as needed. So then you would be referred to the mental health crisis team. And then once you have that referral, you can contact them directly. You can also go directly to the emergency room at your local hospital. I'm going to include some hotlines that are for the Netherlands in the show notes. And with that, let's hear about Julia's experience once the mental health crisis team was called in.
They do a lot of psychiatric analyses and they try to give me medication at home to start treatment at home and to stay at home. Then they would do regular check-ins or daily check-ins basically to see how it goes. I think every day my husband had contact with a midwife and she would then again have contact with the GP and the crisis team. Eventually, because I did not have the insight of my illness and I didn't want to take the medication at home, I was involuntarily admitted.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Can you share more about the symptoms? You mentioned having further deterioration. What were some of your symptoms
Yes.
and what did they look like for you?
Um, it was, well, I had a lot of thoughts and made a lot of connections with things that did not really make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would, for instance, on one of the days that the crisis team came to visit, there was also emergency personnel, and she had a feather on her shoulder. Because of that, I identified her as an angel, and all the other psychiatrists also as angels. Very strange and very religious delusions. I can't remember if I did give them a reason for not taking the medication. I think in my mind, I wanted to keep on trying to breastfeed my baby. I think that was probably the main reason why I didn't want to take the medication because if I took it, I could not continue with that anymore.
I mean, yeah,
I
that's something you should talk through, right? With a provider, being like, is
I
there a
think
care plan that helps me
yes.
still breastfeed?
I think they did try to have that conversation with me. I would agree with them, but then at the same time, it's not really, it's just like something did not really connect. It's like one and one did not want to come.
Yeah, and then like a few
Uh,
minutes later, you could be in some delusion where like, you're like, oh, never mind, I'm doing this.
exactly,
I
exactly.
understand.
And I would also tell them like, I'm tired and I want to go and sleep, but I made no effort to actually get up and go to bed. I would just continue to sit and talk with them. At some point, did not want my husband to feed the baby anymore because I thought that I could connect or talk to my baby telepathically. He would tell me if he needed food.
Uh, okay, how nice would that be?
Exactly. I also had conversations with people that does not live close by and people who have already passed. So I believed I could talk
Oh,
to them, I could communicate with them. I read in my medical files that I said that I thought that I was God, but I don't remember actually saying that. I do believe that I was
whoa.
trying to figure out who God was, if he was a person. So it got really strange and really bizarre. Yeah. And at
Yeah.
that point, it did not make sense for me to stay at home anymore.
Okay. I mean, I'm fascinated to hear your story being in the Netherlands and some of the
Yeah.
awesome work that's coming out of the
Yeah.
Netherlands
Yes.
and the mother baby unit. Like it seems like there are really great resources.
Yes. Yes.
but also not perfect.
They do have a lot of great resources and support. I think it just sometimes takes a while to get to them. There was also, I don't know exactly how that goes in the Netherlands, but when I was admitted, they also did not start to give me medication, or they did give me some medication, but they don't forcefully give you medication. You have to still agree to it. And there was also a whole process around that. They had to go through the court and the lawyers first to be able to give me medication. So while being admitted, I first went to a general psychiatric ward because at the time there also wasn't place in the mother baby unit. And I think I was also too unstable to go to the mother baby unit first. For the first while I was admitted, things got worse before it eventually got better. I think that was also part of my husband's frustration is, yeah, if she needs the medication, just give her the medication. But it first also had to go through a whole judicial
Wow.
process. Yeah.
I have heard of this. Was that a lengthy process that your husband was driving, or was that something they did?
No, so the hospital and the psychiatrists were driving that process. But yeah, it takes, I think it took like 2 or 3 days. And I think things progress a lot when you're in such a manic psychotic state. Yeah, time is essentially of the essence to get treatment
Yeah,
as soon as possible.
that sounds pretty frustrating. I'd be curious to hear your reflections on the involuntary admission versus voluntary admission. What are your reflections there?
I think I was not really, because I did not give consent to it, and because of the safety of the people around me, for myself, for the baby, they saw that that was ultimately necessary. I think a lot for me centers around not really having full insight on my illness at the time. So that created a lot of frustration for me. I was also very angry. So I was quite aggressive sometimes towards the medical personnel in the psychiatric ward. I don't know if it was a delusion or if someone told me that I would only be there for one day. I think it sounds more like I would have made that up, but I had this idea in my mind that I would only go for one night and then I would go home again. So every day I also kept on packing my bags and packing my things and waiting for
Hmm.
my husband to come and get me. I was sort of in and out of consciousness in that sense, I would say. I would realize and agree that there is something wrong and I need help. But at the same time, I was like, no, I'm fine. I'm not ill. I don't need to be here. So, yeah, that was difficult and difficult to process because I felt like I was punished for something, or at some point, I even thought that this was like a game or some, I don't know, people were betting against me for ending up in here, or I don't know, was very, yeah, bizarre and
Yeah,
strange.
that sounds really hard
Yeah.
and tricky. Was there any part of you that was mad at being in the psych ward at all, like having not admitted yourself? Or was it more just like, I don't need treatment, I'm fine?
No, it was more like, yeah, there's nothing wrong. I'm fine. I don't need to be here. Yeah, so I did not want to accept that I was ill. Yeah, looking back at what I did, the things that I've said, the things that was in my medical file as well, it's so clear that I was ill, but I just did not have that clarity to recognize that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember wrestling with it too in the psych ward because I remember my psychiatrist was like, okay, this is postpartum psychosis. And the way he described it, he was like, this falls in the umbrella of postpartum depression. And I remember being like, this doesn't feel like depression. What is this? Like, are
Yeah.
you sure? I can relate there.
Yeah.
So in you were in the general psych ward. What kind of
Yes.
treatment did you end up receiving?
In the general psych ward, I think the main focus was to just get you stable enough so that you are able to move on to the mother baby unit and be
Mm.
reunited with your baby. So I was admitted with a breast infection with mastitis as well. So I
Oh
received
no. Oh,
antibiotics.
it's the
Yes, so I
worst.
think
Mastitis sucks. I had it
it
and
was
it
just
was
a
not
whole,
nice.
yeah, I think it was just a whole plethora of things that combined and it just escalated from there. I got some sleep medication like lorazepam and antipsychotic. And a couple of days after I was admitted, they also started lithium in combination with the antipsychotic.
Great.
And it worked well, but it took a while. It took quite some time. I was there in the general psych ward was a month before they said, okay, your symptoms are now more stable. The psychotic symptoms has disappeared. Illusions mostly disappeared. I could sort of hold my attention long enough on my baby to be able to move to the mother baby unit.
That's a long time. A month.
Yeah,
The psych ward was a lot for me.
yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Okay. Like what was maybe the Netherlands is better.
Uh,
Uh okay.
no,
So it was a lot for you too.
I don't know. It was a lot. I think because I was trying to make sense of what is happening, why am I here? I was constantly trying to figure out when am I gonna go home? How long do I need to be here? Obviously, there were a lot of different people in the general psychiatric ward as well. So I found it strange to interact with them too. There was a lot of medical personnel, but yeah, they basically go about trying to help everyone, making sure people are taking their medication. I felt like if someone would have sat me down and spent a little bit of time with me to listen to what is actually going on in my head, because there was a lot of paranoia, a lot of suspicion, a lot of things playing out in my own reality that I don't think people were always aware of, and I didn't feel comfortable enough that I could trust anyone to talk about it. I wish that there was some form of therapy already in the general ward, even if it was just someone to repeat to me on a daily basis why I'm here. But obviously, you need a lot of manpower for that.
Yeah. But not
I
impossible. I don't know. It's
Yeah, it was intense because I was also very active and quite frantic, moving my furniture around in my room a lot, talking to other patients and trying to sort of make sense why they are here. I was actually not allowed to ask those kind of questions. I think it's, well, obviously it's private and I didn't want to really cross any boundaries, but you're here and you're with other people, so it's just natural to start talking. I think for me, it was just trying to make sense of like, okay, what is happening? How much time do I need to spend in here? Asking patients how long they've been here, and then hearing they say 13 years, which is
uh,
completely not true, but that was in my psychotic state.
not good to hear that.
But it was definitely not true. But I mean, then I
You
hear that.
didn't know that.
Yeah, I thought that I was never going to get out and go home. So it was intense and a really frustrating experience.
Yeah. I absolutely talk to other patients too
Yeah.
about their experiences. No one told me they'd been in for 13 years though. That would be distressing.
I'm sure they probably told me 3 days and I heard 13 or something like that. But I remember that I was very frantic. I could not really bring myself to just sit down and do a simple activity like build a puzzle or do a crafts activity. So I was at the same time extremely bored, but
Mm.
I didn't have the attention span to really engage in an activity like that. And I was not allowed to go outside. There was a outside courtyard, but I felt like you get a lot of medication, and with the antipsychotic medication, it increases your need, or yeah, you want to eat more sweet things all the time. So I
Oh, I
feel
didn't
like
know
I also
that.
gained a lot of weight in the
Oh.
psychiatric ward. So I feel like probably would have been nice if people could have warned me or just say, hey, pay attention to this, or yeah, take the sweet things away.
For me, I didn't have any appetite. I lost so much weight. And it was a sign of me getting better when I started eating. So maybe it was there, but I needed it. Like I
Yeah.
once I was like eating
Yeah.
it and on the antipsychotics,
I
for
think maybe for me
me.
it was also like comfort eating, trying to make sense of this situation that I'm in.
Hmm. How long did it take for you to feel improvement?
It took a while. After the general ward, I went to the mother baby unit and I stayed there for almost another 2 months. Although the psychotic symptoms disappeared, I was emotionally quite flat during my time in the mother baby unit. At that time, I still did not really fully believe that I was ill. I felt like I could not share what was really happening in my mind because I was afraid that I would need to stay there for a longer period of time, even. So I
Oh.
just kept on going, took my medication, and went through the motions. The mother baby unit was great. There was a lot of support. They taught me a lot about my son, and they showed me a lot of things to look for in terms of his behavior, when he's hungry, when he's tired, how to watch out for moments of connection when he's trying to connect with you. Um, and of course, all sorts of other tips of how to just calm your baby down, or how to take care of yourself as well, to check in with yourself. How are you doing? How are your anxiety levels? They had group therapy in the mother baby unit as well, in different forms. So either talk therapy or writing, doing small crafts. I found that quite hard though.
Hmm.
Having, yeah, never really talking to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, it felt quite uncomfortable. There were three other moms with me in the mother baby unit, and they struggled with postpartum anxiety. Um, and well, during the therapy sessions, everyone gets a chance to share how they're doing or what they wrote down in the assignment that was given out. I found it really confronting because I felt like my symptoms were so different from the other moms. Not that their experience is not also very difficult for them to work through. I missed having sort of connection with someone who has had a postpartum psychosis experience, for example. Um, so I feel like I didn't really engage a lot with them during my time there, but afterwards we did have regular meetups, which I
Oh.
really appreciated because you could, well, they saw you at your absolute worst.
Yeah.
And you could just share openly what is happening at home, how are you dealing with things. I'm really happy for that in the end. But while I was there, it
It
didn't really
didn't.
feel like sharing or engaging that
Yeah.
much. My main focus was just getting home.
Yeah. For me, recovery, it's been so great to connect with other
Yes.
survivors and see the similarities and the differences and just be able
Yeah,
to know that you're not the only one.
I agree, definitely. To come back to your question about when did I feel things improved? I think probably when I went back home, I started weaning off the antipsychotic medication. It probably took a good 7 to 8 months before I started feeling, okay, I can take on some things again. But I continued using medication for almost 2 years. I kept on using lithium. Only after I stopped with the lithium, I felt like I was really returning to my normal pre-birth baseline. So it did take a really long time,
So you were taking the lithium. How long did you take lithium for?
almost 2 years. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I wasn't given any. I'm fascinated by the post-acute time and medication
Yeah.
plan,
Yeah.
uh, because it seems to be variable.
I
But
think they adapted based on your personal experience and a little bit on your home situation. My husband started working again after our baby was about 7 months old. He had to travel a lot for his work, be away during the week and then at home on the weekends. I kept on receiving home care from the regional crisis team. I talked to the psychiatric nurses. And basically, they helped me to come to terms with what happened and how to pick up normal life again and how not to get stressed out by daily things because I struggled quite a bit with that in the beginning. So they were involved in the decision for me to take the medication longer because they knew that my husband would be traveling quite a bit. I would be home alone with baby quite often. They wanted to make sure that I don't have a relapse within this crucial time period and
yeah,
yeah, wanted to make sure that the family unit also has time to recover.
I think it's great. And it's great too that through the psych ward, for me, I was also very anti-med. And then you're like, oh, this helps me. Like I need it. There's
Yeah.
no shame. And it's great that your providers knew that lithium is such a great medication
Yes. Yeah.
for
Yeah.
psychosis. What impact did the experience of postpartum psychosis have on you?
I think it made me more compassionate, compassion for people with mental illness in general, and also just being more aware of what people is going through in my environment. Um, and yeah, I think particularly also wanting to support families going through postpartum mental illness. For us, it was a very difficult time, and I felt like we had, well, the professionals had the information, but I think they probably did not know how to explain it to us or just had a conversation about like this is what is happening, this is probably how long it's going to take to recover, she is going to get well, you are going to recover. Those were all uncertainties that we did not know and that added to stress and a really difficult postpartum period. I think I now also take more time to evaluate my own feelings about how am I doing, especially in moments where it's really busy and I can feel like the anxiety is increasing. I really take the time to stop and check in and say, okay, what is happening? Why am I feeling like this? What do I need to change? And for me, that is typically sleep. I'm not very strict with my sleep, but in times that it is busy, it is essential for me to have a good rest because otherwise, daily life makes things unravel or I get very anxious. I think anybody can have a better day if they're well rested.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sleep is important for anyone. And when you've had an experience of not sleeping and losing your mind, For me, there's a little bit of PTSD. If I don't get a good night's rest, it's like, ah. So I can relate to that a lot.
That was really, I think I was scared of not having good sleep. So whenever I did not sleep well, I would question myself. I was like, okay, is it now going to happen again? And people in my environment also kept on saying to me, like, you have to sleep well. And sometimes it's not always something that you can control. So it is an important factor to keep sane and to handle stress a bit better.
Hmm. Can
Yeah.
you share a little bit more on the impact to your sense of identity?
I don't think, well, I think I changed for the better. It took a while to come to terms with the experience and to not be ashamed of it, although the things that I did and said sometimes were shameful. But I don't consider it really, it is a part of me, but it is not me. It's not, it does not define me. How I continue from this experience is a better definition of how I approach things now and how I want to advocate for people and really make them aware and help them through this process.
So much of what you say is like, yes, for my experience too. Okay, as a survivor and a researcher, if you could fund one study on postpartum psychosis, what would you investigate?
I think it circles back to a sort of a screening test or a screening tool. There are, during my own pregnancy, you do a lot of screening to see if the baby is doing okay, if
Uh-huh.
you might develop diabetes. And I was thinking maybe in the last trimester, do a screening of cortisol levels or certain immune factors that could maybe already indicate an elevated risk. I think that would be groundbreaking in a sense.
Yeah, the cortisol, I remember seeing that somewhere. And that's something you can absolutely measure. And like we're both saying, like, oh, I was fine. Or not having the awareness yourself of like you're
Yes,
stressed. You are stressed
yes.
out. So that's a great idea. It would help, like, it sounds like both of us are in that group of no prior history, no family
Yeah,
history. And so not knowing the risk,
yeah,
it
exactly.
would be nice to have a screening of some kind to help
Yeah,
families not
yeah,
end up going through traumatic experiences.
yeah.
What's one thing you would like to see in your region for improved outcomes for families?
I'm now again in a new region.
Yeah, true.
um, in the United Arab Emirates. And I think, yeah, I would still like to see here as well better education and awareness about postpartum psychosis. I've talked to a few health professionals here, and the experience and the awareness is limited still. I do know that they are planning to set up a mother baby unit in Abu Dhabi,
Oh,
which I think is really great. And I think for the Netherlands, they are really doing great. I think there is a lot of great support. The awareness, I think, is just lacking in terms of sharing the risk factors or just sharing that it is a possibility. There could be a bigger focus on the postpartum period next to the pregnancy period and what to expect in terms of mental illness. It doesn't have to be scary or frightening, of course, but something that you could read and have in the back of your mind and say, hey, oh, I recognize this, that jogs my memory.
yes. Yes. Cheers to education. I think it's needed. And even if it's like, if I remember getting a folder when we were discharged from, I had my baby at a hospital and they gave me a folder, or I don't know, home birth materials, but like a pamphlet, like they give you information on
Yes,
breastfeeding, watching for mastitis,
exactly.
and
Yeah,
or healthy sleep approaches. But having something that's like, hey, mom, dad, you know,
yeah,
you need to watch out also for you too. And these are some signs for your health, including like you can lose touch with reality if you don't sleep. So
Yes, 100%. Yes. So
yeah.
I had a similar folder, which I got during my pregnancy.
Okay.
Uh, and it's really useful because there's, for different stages of the pregnancy, there's different information, different types of screening that you could do. But the part about mental health was really short and not detailed at all. So a pamphlet about postpartum mental illness, how to protect your sleep as new parents, that would be very useful.
It
Yeah.
makes sense to do that in pregnancy. Like
Yes.
give people this information well before. Okay, so we have collaborated on research, and then thank you so much for reaching out initially and offering support. It's been so lovely to meet people through this project and through PSI and feel supported in having conversations. This is a
Yeah.
small podcast, but people listen in from around the world, and we draw from research around the world. So thank you for offering your PhD brain.
You're welcome. Thanks to you as well, because I think it's really nice to be able to contribute to something like this. It really helps a lot of people to hear other experiences of postpartum psychosis, to put things into perspective and to let you know you're not alone and you will feel better eventually. So
Mhm.
just give yourself that grace and time.
That is a wrap for this episode. We did keep talking about some lingering questions as well as reflections that came up while reviewing the relevant literature together. We are going to save that for a future conversation and get a bit more organized around our core frequently asked questions and structure it hopefully in a helpful way. And that's like user friendly. Again, so grateful to Julia for sharing her story, also for the thoughtful collaboration. I would so appreciate if you would subscribe on whatever platform you are listening on. And also, please share this episode with someone who you know you can talk mental health with. Thanks for listening. Be kind to your mind.